Despite only scoring 14 points, did Notre Dame's offensive performance on Saturday expose why Michigan has had such success in recent years against Ohio State? The Buckeyes have had two very athletic five-star, non-Bosa, non-Chase Young defensive ends who weigh about 260 pounds and can get pushed around by larger offensive linemen, like what the Irish and Wolverines had. The difference may be simply that Jim Harbaugh would be happy to only call running plays the entire game. Is it fair to say that what Dan is asking in this question?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out. Continue.
Is it fair to say that Dan is asking if Lou Holtz had a point? Did Lou Holtz have a point in his comments? These are the comments that set Ryan Day off in the postgame. Lou Holtz made mention of the fact that he's lost to Alabama and Georgia and Clemson and Michigan twice, and that everybody who beats them is more physical. That's why these teams are beating Ohio State. And that's why he liked Notre Dame in this game. And obviously, big win for Ohio State on the road. They get the touchdown by a few inches. Chip Trainum. Did Lou Holtz have a point, Dan?
No, Lou Holtz never has a point. So let's get beyond that. Notre Dame has scored 41, 45, 56, and 42 this season. Only one Power 5 opponent in which they scored 45 on the road with weird lightning delays, correct?
Right.
In NC State. How many points did Ohio State hold Notre Dame to?
14.
How many points did Notre Dame score in the first half? 0. The answer is 0 points in the first half, right? I'm not doing this to make fun of Notre Dame. Trust me on this.
I know.
Whatever you think about Ohio State's defense, whatever you think the word soft means in college football as it relates to defense, Ohio State's defense took care of business in that first half. Notre Dame was not able to get things going consistently downfield. They were not able to get things going consistently in protecting Sam Hartman all of the time. And so I thought Ohio State's performance, by and large, was successful. Now, if you want to look and say, this is what Notre Dame did, they ran straight at them with Jeremiah Love and Audric Estime, and they had success in extending drives, and you could see that Ohio State was getting worn down as the game went on, and Notre Dame was leaning on that very specific strategy that Michigan had success with, and in the second half, it seemed to be working. Sure, okay. I don't know if you can specifically point at the weight of defensive ends as to why Ohio State is going to get pushed around by Michigan again, and they very well may be. But I think also there's technique. There's the freshness of like, how much do you trust your twos to come in, your rotation guys to come in? How much do you trust scheme? How much do you trust run fits and run blitzing? Like, I think there's a lot of elements to why Ohio State couldn't necessarily get off the field as often as they'd like, both against Notre Dame and Michigan. But I don't know. I think it's overblown because that assumption says that like, oh, Ohio State shouldn't lose to Michigan. What if Michigan just has slightly better offensive linemen than Ohio State does defensive linemen? What if Michigan is also just excellent at developing road grading offensive linemen? Like, I think you had two great teams. Michigan kind of won that game throwing the ball deep because of those opportunities in the second half last year. And I think Ohio State has a tremendously good chance at beating Michigan this year. And I don't think they're falling behind by any dramatic stretch. So, no, I don't think it exposed anything or built upon anything significantly. That's how Notre Dame is also built. They're built to do that. They didn't do this wasn't, out of character for Notre Dame. They're specifically building their offense around, big road grading offensive linemen and, Audric Estime is friggin' jacked. Did you see Pat McAfee with Estime on set?
Yeah, he had a lead with the statement like, you are comically jacked.
Like how many fronts, good team fronts, would Notre Dame push around? My answer is many. And so Ohio State gets pushed around and still wins. And look, did they have a numbers advantage those last two plays? Sure. But on the same token,
you're a scoundrel.
On the same token, that's to me the concern with Notre Dame is also the inability to do all of the little things correctly all the time. And yes, obviously the 10 men on the field, those last two plays, are going to be the big highlighter version of that answer. But if you go into this game thinking, or you came out of the game thinking, oh, Notre Dame lost that more than Ohio State won that because Ohio State was exposed in the run game, whatever, Ohio State took care of the tiniest business in a way that Notre Dame didn't. And I think that's the difference on the margins.
I appreciate the question.
Yeah.
I get why he asked the question. I think it's mostly BS, personally. And this is still an extremely physical team. If you go back through the archives of college football, yes, Lou Holtz is right. They did lose to Clemson. You know what happened when they played Clemson the next year? They beat their brains in.
Yeah,
correct. In the playoff game. Then they lost to Alabama. Okay, that's a separate topic altogether. But I don't feel like Ohio State is that far off. If you want to go back to last season when they played Michigan, the issue wasn't so much them getting pushed around as it was them giving up big plays. There were pinata moments, as we like to say, in that football game, a long kick return that kind of turned the game on its ear.
I would say both. And it wasn't just the long plays, but they were set up by the success that they had on the ground. Yeah.
Sure. But the long plays ultimately were what swung that game in Michigan's favor, both through the air and on the ground and the special teams game.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just don't think that Ohio State's that far off. I don't think this is part of a grave trend that is going to lead Ryan Day down this pathway of having to leave Ohio State. I think they're fine.
Also, it's results oriented, and Ohio State won a tough game on the road against a very good team. And so all you can really draw from that is Ohio State is better at winning right now than a very good team, Notre Dame.
Yeah, and my very biased opinion, if I could kind of take this in a slightly different direction on the Notre Dame side of things.
Yeah.
I don't think it exposed Ohio State as much as it exposed Brian Kelly and Tommy Rees. Right?
How so?
Their inability.
We're still on them? Okay.
I'm still on them.
Okay.
I can't get past their inability to get a good quarterback in this system and actually know how to use them was on full display. Because it's a good line this year. They've had good lines. It's a good backfield this year. It's a loaded backfield this year. They also had loaded backfields in pretty much every previous season. They've had better defenses in previous seasons than they had this year. The thing they did not have was a decent quarterback. A decent quarterback to make the defense think twice about playing too heavily against the run. They didn't have that. They had it this year with Sam Hartman. Now, they still were not able to get the job done.
Right.
I get it. Before you say it, you don't even have to go any further.
Yeah.
But the fact that they got a guy in the system now who actually makes the defense think twice, who can punish you, who can find the open guy, who can do things differently and make it more of a multidimensional offense, that speaks volumes about, honestly, the last coaching regime. And maybe even Tommy Rees, because he's having some issues with the quarterback down there at Alabama as well.